None. None. Bonnie and Clyde murdered at least 13, including 9 cops. Comics, movies, t-shirts, all type of memorabilia. And right now, today, can't remember the name of it, but a little city right outside of Las Vegas, when you first cross the border from California into Nevada, in one of the casinos, you can find the automobile, the relic, and many of the artifacts, because they are celebrated. The very same thing you say that only black people do. But the challenge is going to be, and the reason nobody could win that $1 million I offered, when you looked at the quiz, you might have said, wow, this is going to be pretty easy. You might not get all 15 right. It was only 15 descriptions. You had to match the name of the criminal with the description of the crime. And even if you got 8, 9, 10, 11, maybe you didn't get all 15, what you didn't realize is the second part of the quiz is why nobody was going to win. For every white criminal on my list that you could properly identify and match the name and the description of their crime, here's what you had to do. In fact, I'll read it to you. For every white criminal who you correctly identified, identify one black criminal of the past or of the present by name. And this is the criteria for the black criminals that you must name. A, it has to be a criminal whose notoriety is entirely based upon the crime they committed and upon nothing else. For example, this young lady right here, I'm sorry, ladies, this young female right here, Amy Fisher, she is known entirely for the crime she committed. A lot of you would like to name O.J. Simpson. He is only known because of his fame and his celebrity before there was any allegation of a crime. The crime was never proven to be a crime, so therefore you can't even call him a criminal. In a civil case, he was found responsible. He was never convicted of a crime. You cannot even appropriately call him a criminal. But if you want to, that's fine. I don't care. But the challenge was for every white criminal you name, all of these white criminals that I just named off the top of my head, whose entire notoriety is based upon their criminal behavior. Why would you know anything about Jesse James were he not a notorious bank robber? Bonnie and Clyde, some people would look at as poor white trash, even though I never used that term because I think it's racist not only against white people, but also against black people when you call white people poor white trash. It implies that regular trash is something other than white. They're only known because of their criminal activity. John Gotti is only known for being a gangster. Al Capone is only known for being a gangster. Billy the Kid is only known for being a gunslinger, criminal. John Dillinger, only known for being a criminal. Heidi Fleiss, only known for being a madam, a prostitution. Ma Barker, same thing, female gangster. Machine Gun Kelly, Pretty Boy Floyd, Frank Unger. All of these people are only known for being a criminal, and yet they are celebrated. And everybody knows their name. Everybody knows who they are. And they've seen them on posters, t-shirts, comic books, and everything else. But by contrast, for every white criminal you named on that list, you had to name one black criminal of the past or the present by name. And the criteria has to be that their notoriety is entirely based upon the crime they committed and nothing else. In other words, they were not first or later known for some other exploits other than their crime. For example, Malcolm X was a criminal before his conversion to Islam, but you only know that because he was a great civil rights leader, so he does not count. He's not known for his crime. He's known for being a great civil rights leader. And because you know that, you know his whole life story, including the fact that before he became a great civil rights leader, he was a criminal. Mike Tyson was convicted of rape, even though I don't believe he actually raped anybody, but he was convicted of rape. But you only know about that because he was one of the youngest and greatest heavyweight boxing champions of the world. So that he wouldn't count. Hey, there are so many black criminals. This shouldn't be that hard. Here's another criteria which made it hard for anybody to pass this quiz. The other criteria is that the black criminal has to be one whose name is not synonymous with some white person whose name is equally well known. Because that would suggest that were it not for the fact that the white person was somehow involved, you would not know their name either. So this criteria would exclude people like Damian Football Williams, Keith Watson, and Anton Miller, because those three black criminals, they are indeed criminals, but their names are synonymous with the truck driver Reginald Denny, who they attacked during the Rodney King Rebellion. So they are discounted. They cannot be included. You cannot use them to win this $1 million. Because if it was not for the white victim by the name of Reginald Denny, you would not know the name of Damian Football Williams, Keith Watson, or Anton Miller. I said, don't fret, there are millions of black criminals left. After all, they make up about 70% of the criminal population, don't they? And this criteria should not be considered too tough because it's a known fact that most crimes committed by black people are not in any way synonymous with a white person of any notoriety. So all you have to do is name a black criminal. I don't care if it's Ray, Pookie, anybody else that you know the name of. You have to actually know the name, first and last, of a black criminal who is known only for their crime, and they cannot be known because their name is synonymous with a white person whose name is equally well known. The third and final criteria is this. It cannot be anybody that you are in any way connected to personally. So no, you can't say, hey, I can name a black criminal. It was the guy who raped my mother, who robbed my house. Nope, they're connected to you personally, so they don't count. And the point of my report, my challenge, my offer to pay $1 million to anyone who could pass that quiz, which nobody did, was to prove that the opposite of what you just said, Candice Owens, is the reality. You say black people are the only ones who suggested that blacks are the only ones who celebrate black criminals, when the truth of the matter is, Candice, you couldn't pass this test either. You could not pass this test either. And it doesn't matter if you personally celebrate them or not. You could not name a black criminal, period, Candice Owens, who doesn't fall, by name, who doesn't fall into one of the three criteria I outlaid. And if you do, you have to be able to name a black one for every white person that you can name. See, those who aren't that literate and don't know that much about history, or maybe it was before their time, they might not know anything about, let's say, I don't know, Bonnie and Clyde. When I was a child, that was one of the first movies I ever saw. I'll never forget that. You might not know about Pretty Boy Floyd, Machine Gun Kelly, little gangster names. Gangbangers, just like Crips and the Bloods. We know about the Crips and the Bloods, but name some of them by name. Let's all admit, they do a lot of crime, a lot of murders. But name some of them by name. That's all I'm asking. For every white criminal that you name on my list, and I did it off the top of my head. I didn't do any research. That came up with these names and the crimes they committed. Because it is so ingrained in all of us. If you're literate at all, if you live in the United States of America, you know who these white criminals are. You know their names. You know everything about them. You can't help but know it. You're bombarded with it. The opposite of what you just said, Candace. They're celebrated. They are. Oh, you want to doubt that? And do you know, out of all the criminals in prison, Charles Manson was getting more love letters than anybody at that prison. He was only known for being a maniac and a criminal. But white women in droves were giving him marriage proposals. There's actually numerous studies that have been done, Candice Owens. Pretty Boy Floyd is responsible for the death of 4 police officers. He's a hero. Bonnie and Clyde, here's something on the biography. They became one of the first outlaw media stars After some photos of them fooling around with guns were found by police, and the myth-making machine began to work its transformative magic. Soon fame would turn sour and their lives ended in a bloody police ambush, but their dramatic and untimely end would only add luster to their legend. They were a legend, just like Billy the Kid, gunslinger, gangbanger, running around. People look at him the wrong way. He'd want to prove that he was quicker at the gun than they were and shoot them to death. Amy Fisher, 17-year-old girl sleeping with a married man, tried to kill her husband and she becomes a heroine. Even now, she's celebrated. Look at that. She made the, she's got a Wikipedia page, this American writer. She's a star, and all she did was commit a crime. Slept with a married man when she was 17, tried to murder his husband. That's all she had to do. But hey, we say there's no white privilege. We know black people do stuff like that. But tell me the name. That's all I ask. Tell me the name. Pretty boy Floyd. 4 law enforcement officers killed. Ted Bundy. Why women fall in love with serial killers like Ted Bundy. What they should have said is why white women fall in love with serial killers like Ted Bundy. But you just got through saying Candice Owens. The 10 most infamous murderers who married in prison. Charles Manson. Charles Manson, a lot of white women feel that she hit the ultimate prize when she hooked up with that. Because he was getting more love letters and marriage invitations, all from white women, than anyone else at that prison. That was the story. But you turn around. John Gotti was so beloved. And he was, let's talk about John Gotti, what he was guilty of. An absolute criminal, responsible for the murder of over 19 people. Jesse James, bank robber, killed over 22 people. Billy the Kid killed over 8 people. Al Capone was responsible for over 33 people killed. Then you have Machine Gun Kelly. But these people are celebrated and idolized. And most importantly, they're humanized. See, that's the thing. We vilify black criminals, as we should, because they are villains. But we idolize white criminals. Because you are black and you state these falsehoods out of your mouth, there are people on the right, and by the way, Candace, I'm not against you. I'm against your false rhetoric. Some things you say I can get behind wholeheartedly, and I don't care who doesn't like it. But this was appalling ignorance on your part. I can't even believe. I'm starting to believe that you're a puppet. Somebody's feeding you this crap. You can't really believe it. She said something about George Floyd's picture being on T-shirts. Well, it's not because anyone's celebrating him as any type of a hero. He is a symbol of something that people are saying enough is enough. And again, it wouldn't matter if he was the worst SOB ever. And if you can't see that, something is seriously wrong with you. You need a priest, an exorcist, or a therapist, or somebody to lay you down, strap you down, maybe strap you to a couch and talk to you and try to find out what's going on in that little brain. Why you are so myopic, why you can't see what's right in front of you. But I don't want to attack you, the person, Candace, but I have to attack this rhetoric. It's nonsensical. Absolutely appalling.
Be hard-pressed to find, a Jewish person who has spent 5 stints in prison, who commits a crime and dies while committing a crime, and that the Jewish people champion and demand justice for.
Are you serious?
You will be hard-pressed to find this in white America. You'll be hard-pressed to find this even in Latino America. There is a person that is...
Not only is nobody hard-pressed to find it, Candace, but probably about 20 years ago, off the top of my head in my spare time, I put together this quiz, and I made a bunch of copies. I put it out there, and not one person could claim this $1 million. In other words, if you're so dumb, if you're so uninformed, if you're so illiterate, that on my entire list of criminals, there's only 15 crime descriptions, compared to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, there were 26 criminals that I named and 15 crimes. All you had to do is match them up. And see, in order to get the $1 million, you didn't even have to get all of them right. That's what people thought. You didn't have to get them all right. You didn't have to get all 15 right. You could have got $1 million if you only got 5 right. You could have got $1 million if you only got 3 right. I would have owed you $1 million if you only got 1 right. But here's what I knew. Anyone so uninformed, so unread, illiterate, that they could only get one of these well-known criminals right. If you only know one of these, I doubt very seriously if you could name one black criminal, even one, who fit the criteria. And if you only got one white criminal right, all it would take is naming one black criminal by name who fit my criteria, and I would have owed you $1 million. I knew nobody would be able to do it. You might say, hey, I'm pretty good. I didn't get all 15, but I got 13. Hey. Did I have to get them all right to win $1 million? No, you did not, sir. You did pretty good. You got 13 out of 15. Well, I got 15 out of 15 because all of these I just did off the top of my head based on what I know. And I'm not obsessed with this stuff. I didn't do any research. I just did it off the top of my head. So conceivably, some people could have gotten all 15 right. But if you did get 15 right, or 13, or 12, or 10, or whatever, you just have to name a black criminal, the equal number of black criminals who fit my criteria. And there's no way you'd be able to do it. If you could only name 2 of these white criminals, there's no way you're going to be able to name 2 black criminals. Why? Because the whole point, and that's what I proved conclusively, was that black criminals are vilified and dehumanized. They're not even human. We don't know anything about their background, their backstory. We don't know anything about them. But white criminals, on the other hand, are glamorized, glorified, romanticized, and become idols. They do. Now, after the dismay of realizing that they could not win the $1 million, I gave people another chance. And here's what I wrote. I'm looking at it now. Maybe I'll show it. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll take a picture of this quiz and I'll show it. It said, that's it, folks. If you can do that, we will send you a check for $1 million. There are no limitations. We'll send a prize to every contestant who can do this. In other words, if 10 of you do it, we got to pay out $10 million. I knew I wouldn't have to pay out anything. If you find this is impossible, then just write down the names of 3 black criminals who fit our criteria, and we will send you a check for $100,000. In other words, forget about how many of the white criminals you could or could not name. I'm giving you a second chance to make some money. Just write down the name of 3 black criminals who fit my criteria, and I'll write you a check for $100,000. And if you can't even do that, just list 1 black criminal who matches the criteria, and we'll give you $10,000. But you only have 60 seconds to do it. The clock's ticking already. Name 1 black criminal who fits the criteria by name, first and last, starting. The clock's already ticking. Eventually, maybe some of you could come up with 1. You probably wouldn't do it in 60 seconds. And I know because people are fairly dumb. Some of you right now, you're already thinking and you're saying to yourself, and you probably want to type that you just thought of some criminals who are black. I guarantee you, whatever black criminals you think of do not fit the criteria I gave you. There was only 3 exceptions. The notoriety of that criminal has to be entirely based on the crime they committed and nothing else. Can't be known for anything else. That excludes anybody like Mike Tyson, O.J. Simpson, or anybody else who has celebrity for any other reason. The other criteria is that the name must not be synonymous with some white person whose name is equally well known. Maybe the white victim is well known. That's the only way the only reason you know the name of the white criminal. But more likely than not, even if the white victim is well known, you're going to forget the name of the black criminal. Why? Because their name is not going to be plastered all over the place all the time. And you're not going to hear about it. You might hear about the person. You might, in fact, some people, they say, yeah, what about that black guy who did this? You can't tell me their name. That's my point. Of course, you know about black criminals whose crime was not, who are notorious only for their crime, and that the name, that the name, that the black criminal's name is not synonymous with some equally well-known white person, and it's a black criminal who is not in any way connected to you. Of course, you know of black criminals. That's not the point. But the point is, you cannot tell me their name first and last. I'll name a white criminal right now who's not on my list. I know exactly who he is. And he certainly had no notoriety whatsoever. And his name is not synonymous with any black victims who are equally well known, because we don't know the name of any of the victims. Dylan Wolf, who shot up and killed 9 black people in a black church. Tell me the name of any of their victims that he killed. You know Dylan Wolf's name. Tell me the name of his victims. The innocent black people in church that Dylan Wolf murdered. Go ahead, I'm listening. No, don't go to Google. Don't look anything up. Tell me off the top of your head, just as quickly as I know the name of Dylan Wolf, tell me the name of any of the black people he murdered. Thank you.